There is one more thing we wanted to talk about today. I got one more thing. Just one more thing, but there is one more thing.
One more thing.
Apple, the world's largest IT company. Unless you are living under a rock, you know about their story and you might be watching this video on one of their devices. For decades, they have continued to innovate our smartphones and computers, and they are one of the few companies that has people queuing or even fighting for a chance to purchase one of their devices. We are all aware of the legacy that Steve Jobs has left behind, but what does Apple have in common with the likes of Andy Warhol, Hokusai and Van Gough? In this video, we'll be exploring if Apple is creating art. This video was inspired by the RicksTube channel and this series is this art, so check them out if you're into more content like this. Apple was started by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak in 1976, and it has grown from strength to strength ever since, with Tim Cook taking over as CEO after Steve Jobs passing in 2011. In the US alone, 41% of people are using their smartphones, but anyone who has been aware about the company knows about their fanfare that comes along with each release. Despite them not being one of the first IT companies in the world, they have created a demand for their products that no other company experiences. Today, we'll be taking a close look at their products, advertising, and keynote speeches to work out if Apple is indeed producing art. Apple have three main products which they're mainly known for: the iPhone, the iMac, and the iPad. These products are always praised for their high quality and craftsmanship, which allows them to charge a premium price for their products. To maintain this level of quality, they have really had to perfect the mass production process, much like the artist Andy Warhol. In 1961, he debuted the concept of pop art. These were paintings focused on mass-produced commercial goods. Andy Warhol used a technique called screen printing so he could mass-produce his works at a faster rate. By doing this, he made art into a consumer-like product and forced us to question the notion of a unique work of art. Using this technique, Warhol produced his portraits of celebrities such as Marilyn Monroe, Prince, and Elvis. He would then open up his studio, which he would name the factory, where he would hire staff and focus on efficiency and scaling the production of his artworks. The name of the factory had came from two meanings: the fact that the space had previously been used as an actual manufacturing plant, and it had made it clear that the artworks were produced on an assembly line. However, Andy Warhol wasn't the first artist to have his artwork mass-produced. Over in Japan, there was the Great Wave of Kanagawa by Hokusai, created around 1829, which was created using wood block prints. In the image, we could see an enormous wave threatening 3 boats off the coast of the town of Kanagawa, while we could see Mount Fuji in the background. The original wood blocks were used to create an estimated 5,000 prints, while they all still maintained their quality. In fact, in 2012, one of the original prints had sold for $1.5 million. So we know that art can be mass produced and still maintain its quality, but how can an everyday item like a phone or a laptop be considered art? Well, I guess we could say the same for other everyday objects. One example would be a Greek vase, which is placed inside museums and art galleries across the world. Greek vases were typically used for storage, mixing drinks, and other everyday uses. Could you imagine seeing a toothbrush in a museum a few hundred years from now? Greek vases are also praised for their decoration and attention to detail, much like Apple's products. Even the inside of a MacBook, for example, is said to be well designed and beautiful, despite the fact that only very few people are going to see it. To release these products, Apple creates a massive marketing material to create demand. The debate about whether or not marketing is an art form or a science has been argued for a couple decades now. While this can be an entire video on its own, here's a quick summary by Seth Godin which seems to be widely accepted. Some marketers are scientists. They test and they measure. They do the math, they understand the impact of that spend in that market at that time with that message. They can understand the analytics and find the truth. This sort of marketing works when it works, but it usually doesn't. That's because we're dealing with humans, the wild card in the system. The other marketers are artists. They inspire, challenge, and connect. These marketers are starting from scratch, creating movements, telling jokes, and surprising people. Scientists aren't good at that. And while marketing certainly does have elements of both, Apple's marketing definitely does have a lot in common with some of the works from great painters such as Van Gogh. How? Let's take a look at their billboards. Apple billboards are designed to present the iPhone in a desirable way, enough to glorify it, while showing off its aesthetic beauty, which was what Van Gogh also wanted to achieve with his painting of sunflowers for Paul Gauguin. Like an Apple billboard, every colour and section was placed on the canvas with a purpose in mind. When Van Gogh painted these flowers, he specifically wanted to impress his friend Paul Gauguin, while Apple were trying to impress the average consumer, you in this case. Van Gogh also had a clear idea of where Paul Gauguin would see this painting. At this time, he was waiting for him to arrive in Arles. Billboard purchases and pricing is largely dependent on its location, as this naturally affects the audience who's going to see them. Along with all the marketing material, a key part of Apple releases are its tech conferences. These conferences are held in large venues, attracting large audiences from all over the world. At these presentations, Apple announces its new products and services, which always captures headlines and helps drive up demand around the world. During this conference, various speakers deliver presentations to wow the audience. But what art form is this very similar to? Theatre. Theatre refers to the performance of plays and/or a body of literature and other documentation. Some plays don't even require a script, as we would have seen from famous improvs. This definition could technically cover a wide range of scenarios. The debate of what is and what isn't theatre is one that has been debated and will continue to be for a long time. However, the Apple conferences can definitely be considered theatre according to the definition. The most notable moments of these conferences coming from Steve Jobs himself and his presentations. These presentations were considered to be so good, people nicknamed them Steve Notes, which is a play on the word keynote and Steve. It's during these presentations where he coined the phrase,
Just one more thing.
Theatre is derived from the Greek word theomai, which means to see. The actual origins of theatre are still widely unknown, although the traditions created in ancient Athens are what dominates Western theatre as we know it today. Above all, Apple's ultimate goal is to sell its products. It adopts artistic techniques in order to do this effectively. A combination of good craftsmanship, marketing, and theatre allows Apple to use storytelling to inspire and build a connection. But can a for-profit organisation really be capable of creating art? Or is this just evidence that Apple's marketing is successful? They will certainly be remembered for years to come. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Is Apple producing art?